Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more. Welcome back to the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. I'm your host, Heather Boyd, and I am very happy today to welcome a guest, Helen Thompson. Helen, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and who you support.
Well, hi, my name is Helen, and thank you, Heather, for having me on your podcast. I really enjoyed having you on mine, and it's a pleasure to be here. I offer support to mums who long for peace and calm, empowering them to confidently connect with their babies through massage. And I help them to reduce stress and better understand their baby's cues and ease common challenges like gas, colic, constipation, and even poor sleep, because I know you're a sleep consultant, but even encourage them to help them with their poor sleep and creating a more harmonious and joyful experience for both mum and baby. That's basically where I'm at.
I love that because so much of what we hear is the importance of that connection between mom and baby. How important it is for mom and how important it is for the baby's development and wellness. And so using massage as the strategy or the gateway to that connection is something that we get to delve into today. And I'm curious to learn more about it. In particular, I would love to, we've all heard of baby massage. Maybe some of my listeners have actually gone to a class to learn baby massage. What exactly is it? What does it involve? And what might it look like if a parent is learning this strategy?
Well, for one thing, I'll just mention here that when I teach a class, I actually demonstrate on a doll. I don't demonstrate on babies. I'd love to massage babies, but there's a couple of reasons for that. The way it works that way is because it's the parent who is connecting and bonding with the baby, not me. And as I mentioned in the introduction, that's the power of baby massage. It's the bonding and it's the connection. So that's why I teach it on a doll, so I can observe and watch the parents doing the moves and encourage and help them along the way. I mean, there's no right way or wrong way of massaging. I just encourage them on the way to do that. And I go through a process as a beginning, explaining to them all about baby massage and how it works and why touch is so important. And then I go into the actual massage and I do massage moves on the tummy that help with colic. And then we go into the legs and we go into all that process. And it takes time. And I tend to do it in about 2 or 3 sessions. I don't push mothers to do it all in one session because they need time to go home and practice it with their baby as well. So my classes tend to be around about an hour, depending on the group and how many questions I get at the beginning. And because I always like to use singing as well. I incorporate a lot of singing and communication with the baby as well. It's not massage, but I include songs as well. Maybe that's because I come from a childcare background and I'm used to singing with kids. So that's why I incorporate the song, because then they hear the voice and they hear the connection as well, because that's all part of touch.
Well, and as you mentioned, folding in the song piece and in describing that there's no wrong way to have this physical touch connection with your baby, it just reminds me of just how sensory we are and how much information a baby takes in through their senses. Why is it that touch in particular is helpful to a baby?
I think that's a very good question. I think it's to do with the skin to skin. I mean, we all like to sort of feel the skin to skin connection with people. Babies thrive on that touch. They thrive on you communicating with them. They thrive on a learning process of that, because when you're actually massaging your baby, not only are you touching them, but you're talking to them and you're communicating with them at the same time. So that's where the learning comes in and where the development comes in, because you're teaching them the touch, you're teaching them the trust, and I'll get into the cues in a minute. but you're teaching them the trust, and you're teaching them to say, if you're giving them signs, if they don't want to be massaged, they'll tell you. And that's, I think, the key there. You're sort of giving them that opportunity to say, well, hang on a moment, mum, I've had enough here. Can I have a break? And that's building up the trust. And as I said, they thrive on it as well. They love to be communicated with. They love to be talked to. They love watching your expressions as you communicate with them as well.
I love that, and I
So,
think that it's a nice segue into mentioning the cues, because it really is communication in a two-way direction, right?
oh,
What
absolutely.
what is it that a baby lets us know when they either want a massage or have had enough and need that break?
When you massage your baby, you're actually asking them permission before you massage them. And so many people say to me, but Helen, how can I ask a baby's permission? Well, what you do is if you're using oil, you just rub a bit of oil on your baby's hand and you hold your hand up and you look down at your baby and you say, would you like a massage? And you're watching, if they're putting their hands out towards you, if they're giggling and they're smiling and they're kicking their legs and they're giving you those positive cues, well, then it's a sign that, yes, I'd love to be touched today. They might even put their hands out to say, come a bit closer. Yes, I'd love to do that. And the flip side of that is if they're looking away and if they're not looking at you, if they're not giggly and happy and they're not kicking legs and they're not pushing their hands towards you, it might be a sign that they're thinking, well, I'm not sure if I want this right now. And that's really important to observe because every baby does it in a different way. As humans, we're all different and we all do it in different ways. But that's the basis of what to look for. I mean, I go to it in a lot more detail I give people, a sort of list of all the cues and then on the negative cues. But as a parent, you'll get to know. I mean, every child is different. And as a parent, you'll get to know the basic cues of what they're asking and what they're saying. And obviously, if a baby's crying, well, you don't want to sort of give them a full massage. You might just want to cuddle them and rub them on the back. I mean, that's still a massage. It's still giving them that connection, but you're not actually giving them a full massage. Or even just rubbing their feet can sometimes be very calming for them as well.
And then leading the cues as you go too for that invitation to
Yeah,
stay open.
absolutely.
Well, I think that as you're talking, Helen, I think about that again, that two-way communication and the consent piece, which I don't think many parents have considered before. We talk a lot about consent when we talk about adults, but we don't talk about it as much with babies because we think that consent is verbal. But you're talking about the body language that invites the massage. And I really like that idea. It also makes me think of just how two-way this is, that baby is benefiting, but the parent is really learning about their baby in a way that is deeper than before they come in to learn from you and goes beyond what perhaps they've considered in terms of learning about their baby and the connection they have with their baby. You've talked in other circles about the impact that this might have on a parent who has postnatal depression and may be less aware of their baby's cues. Are there ways that this connection through infant massage might support the parent who is experiencing some postnatal depression?
Well, as I've mentioned, baby massage is a beautiful way to connect, and it's a natural way for communication and hand-eye coordination and touch, and as I mentioned, your voice. So when parents are struggling with postnatal depression, these moments can be so, so valuable for your baby, and they can be so valuable for you. They can be so powerful. And it's just taking a few minutes each day to just communicate with your baby. It doesn't have to be a full massage, just even putting your hands on your baby when they're lying down on their back and kicking, just putting your hands on them. That gives you that connection. And whilst you're doing that, you've heard of the hormone oxytocin. It's the love hormone, but I like to call it the cuddle hormone, but it is the love hormone. And when you're doing that, you're releasing that oxytocin, which helps that bond between both of you. And I think that is just so powerful for a mum who's struggling with postnatal depression. And you don't have to get the massage perfect to begin with. And I think that that's important for, for a mum who might be suffering from postnatal depression. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just that human touch, even if it's holding your baby's hand, or even if it's holding your baby's foot, or putting your hand on your baby's chest or on the face or whatever. That is a connection, and that is a start to helping them feel more capable of actually touching and communicating with the baby, and that's developing an emotional bond with the baby as well. And it's giving the baby comfort, and it's giving you a connection.
You were talking about, and you've brought it up a couple of times now, and I keep thinking how valuable it is for parents to know there's no wrong way to do this. In an environment where we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do it perfectly, what you're saying is just get started.
The only time when there is a right way to do it is if you're massaging your tummy. You've got to go in a clockwise direction because that's the way the bowel moves. And if you it's not wrong to go the other way, but it's not gonna benefit the baby, because if you're trying to release the constipation or the colic or any congestion in the tummy, if you're pushing it out towards the entrance point to the bowel, you're actually helping those air bubbles go out, and it's more relaxing for the baby, and it's more relaxing for you because you can probably feel all the bubbles going out and all that tension going out. But if you do it the other way, you're just pushing it back up, which isn't going to support the baby. So that was I just thought I'd mention that because that's the only time when I would suggest that you have to do it a right way or a wrong way. And also the way you massage as well, you don't want it to be too ticklish. You've got to do fairly firm strokes, but not so firm that it hurts, just firm and gentle strokes that aren't too feathery, because then the baby might start crying because they don't like it because it's too ticklish. Yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, so again, it's about looking for those cues from baby
Yeah,
around even the
absolutely.
pressure.
Yes.
Yeah. And I suppose it's practice makes progress with that too, in terms of families getting comfortable with the cues that their baby's giving and how much pressure to use. Not too ticklish, not too firm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am laughing because I'm remembering showing a parent that clockwise direction on the belly, and the baby let out the biggest bout of very noisy gas that I think the mom had ever heard. It was loud, and I thought, well, that baby definitely benefited from that touch there, and it had us laughing 'cause was surprisingly loud for such a little baby.
I've had that in classes when people have said the baby's constipated. They may not have their nappy on at the time because I always encourage them to have a nappy underneath just in case. And this baby just exploded because all that constipation and congestion had been trapped in there. When the mother massaged the tummy, it was interesting. It was, but that was the whole purpose of the process. So, yeah.
Well, talk about getting really clear feedback that what you're doing is working, right? It may be a lot
Yeah.
more subtle in other ways in other parts of the body, but wow, you get some really good feedback when you're doing a massage on the yeah.
Yes.
Now, as you've mentioned, I'm a consultant and you've made that link or mentioned that link between massage and sleep. I wonder if you can expand on that a little bit, Helen, and talk about the link between how massage may support easier sleep.
My answer to that is it helps your baby to relax. It soothes your baby. You might if you think about being an adult, you like to have that sort of relaxation before you go to sleep. You might like to be touched, or you might just like to just be gentle or just rub your arm. And it's just a really nice, relaxing way to go to sleep. And you don't have to do a whole massage, even just doing the legs and the arms and giving your baby a sort of nice velvet cloak and touching their nose, from the top of the nose down. That actually really helps. And your third eye in the middle of your forehead, if you just do massage out there, that can be really soothing. I mean, before I even learnt massage, I used to do that with kids in childcare if I was trying to get them to go to sleep. And it was amazing how it actually worked. I'd never thought, because I hadn't even done massage when I did that, and that can really help. And that's still a form of massage. It's still a form of touch. It's still a form of communication. And I think the feet one, there's a lot of feet ones you can do as well. I mean, I'm not a reflexologist and I don't promote that I am, but I do know there's a lot of points on the feet that are very responsive to the rest of the body. And I think this the one in the middle, just in the middle, in the middle of your foot, is a very calming, and that relates. I believe it relates to the solar plexus, which is a very complex part of the body, and that sort of helps you to relax as well. And there's one for teasing on the feet as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, and it just, when you first started bringing up this topic today, I was thinking about the kangaroo care that so many parents have learned, especially if they've had a baby in NICU, carrying skin to skin and how regulating that is. But infant massage is another way to connect and a way to actually feel like parents are doing and acting on instead of solely cuddling, which is also absolutely wonderful. How it's not even just in infancy that, as you mentioned, kids in daycare and my own kids, as you were demonstrating stroking the nose and putting pressure on the third eye, it was reminding me that when the kids have a headache in my household, I'll put my hands on their scalp and just give them a little bit of a scalp massage, thinking that maybe I'm somehow releasing some tension. And even if I'm not, at least they feel loved and connected with me when they might not be feeling their best.
You're just calming them. It's a great way to calm and be gentle with them.
Do you use oil or anything when you do massage, or do you avoid that? What are your thoughts on that?
I do use oil, yes. I'm very specific about when I teach mums what kind of oil to use, and I always suggest that they use pure organic oil. Something like almond oil or apricot oil or even coconut oil is always very good, but make sure that it's pure and it's organic and it doesn't have any minerals or anything in it because that can irritate the baby's skin. And I would also suggest to any mum before they massage them with anything to do a patch test first, particularly if it's sort of almond oil or anything, just to make sure that they don't have an allergic reaction. And as for essential oils, a lot of people would disagree with me on this. But as for essential oils, I feel that for a young baby, using essential oils, they're too strong for a baby. And you want to get that smell and that connection from you to your baby. You want them to sense that. And if you're putting essential oils in the oils, they're smelling the essential oil rather than the connection with you. That's just my own feeling on it, and I'm not poo-pooing essential oils. I love essential oils. I use them all the time. They can help with colic, they can help with all that, but from my personal point of view, I feel that it's better not to use essential oils when you're massaging your baby, and I just use that as safety as well as anything else because they can be too strong, and if you don't get the right combination, it can sort of irritate them. So I always suggest to a parent if they want to use essential oils on their baby, talk to an aromatherapist who can guide them on the right track. But I don't encourage them. I just encourage you to use, as I said, the coconut oils, the apricot oils, the almond oils.
Yeah. Well, the skin is such an organ of absorption that to make sure
Yeah,
it's organic
absolutely.
is helpful
Yeah,
too. And I hadn't thought about, but it makes so much sense to think that part of the bonding is through touch, it's through eye contact, it's through smiles, but it's also through scent. And so to mask that, as you say, maybe there's a time and a place for using it, and perhaps not using it serves a valuable purpose when you're doing infant massage too.
yeah. I mean, when I was training, I was even told not to use infusers, which I find very interesting because I thought an infuser would be nice and relaxing, a nice relaxing, calming energy. But that's also, as you mentioned, and the essential oil scent is great. But as I said, you want that scent from you rather than because that's all part of the connection.
Yeah, well, I love that. I would not have considered that. Is there anything today, Helen, that you want to share that I haven't asked you about that you want to elaborate on?
Well, I think there's a lot, but I mean, it would take me a while to explain. But some of the benefits that we haven't mentioned with baby massage, people always think it's the bonding, but it's also, we've mentioned the touch and we've mentioned the senses, but it helps with emotional development as well. and brain development, because when you're massaging your baby and communicating with them, you're helping them with the brain development and language, because you're saying, right, I'm going to massage your left leg, or I'm going to massage your right leg, and you're singing them songs, and you're being social, and you're connecting as well. We've mentioned connection, but it's also the social side as well, because you're socializing and communicating with your baby, and they're watching your cues. They're watching your facial expressions, so they're learning different facial expressions, and they're learning different tones while you're singing to them. So those are a few of the extra benefits that we haven't mentioned, although there are many benefits of baby massage, but those are the ones that I really gel with and connect with.
Mm. Well, and I know when we publish this, it's gonna just be the audio, so people can't see me smiling, but I love just how broad the benefits are on so many sensory levels. It just, yeah, it makes me smile to think of just how lovely that is. If a parent hasn't been massaging their infant and they're listening to this and they're saying, "Oh, this sounds like a lovely way for me to connect and provide benefits to my baby," how can they get started? Where do they even look?
They can get started by just, as we mentioned, just starting to talk to their baby, and even touching their little fingers, and touching their feet, and just giving their even just a nice velvet cloak all the way down their baby. I mean, that's the start. And as we mentioned, just touching the face. Some babies don't like their face to be touched, mind you. Some babies are a bit sensitive to that, but just go with what your I always say, you mentioned about the cues, always go with what your baby wants. If your baby doesn't want you if you sense that the baby doesn't want the legs massage, try the feet, and if they don't want that, we'll just give it a break and come back another time. Don't sort of feel that you have to do massage because you've been told that it's a good thing to do. Yes, it's a good thing to do, but it's got to be done as the baby wants it, and it's always baby-led. So, I mean, if they don't want it, just give them a cuddle and rub their back. That can be very soothing.
The baby-led piece fits right back into what you were talking about with consent and asking at the beginning. I'm curious with the classes that you run, what you see in terms of confidence building in the parents. When you're running your classes, do you see any changes or what are your experiences with the confidence level that parents have when they start with the beginning of class 1 and then following up with you by the end?
I think I see a lot of parents, I see the connection between the baby and the parent, the way they're sort of looking at each other and connecting with each other. Because sometimes at the beginning, parents are always talking amongst themselves while they're massaging their babies. But by the end of the class, they're actually sort of beginning to realize that, hang on a moment, I'm here for my baby. I'm here to communicate with other parents, yes, and be sociable with other parents. But the aim of this is to sort of connect with my baby. And I hear a lot of parents afterwards saying, wow, I never realized that my baby had blue eyes, or my baby had whatever colored eyes, and I never realized that I could actually look at them. You can't see me now because I know it's verbal, but I'm sort of looking down at the baby, and it having that strong connection, I've noticed with that. And also, I've noticed that they become a lot more confident with massaging their baby and singing as well. A lot of parents, I find, don't like sort of singing in front of other people, but after a couple of sessions, or even after the end of the second session, you see them just wanting to communicate with their baby and singing with their baby rather than with themselves. And I think that's quite powerful.
That sounds powerful. It sounds beautiful. Now, you're in Tasmania, so many of our listeners would not ever be able to access a class with you. But for those that may be out your way or who want to learn more by finding you online, where can people find you?
Well, I have a page on my website called mybabymassage.net/, the name of your podcast, which is Sleep Connection Podcast. If they go to that page on my website, they will get all the information that they need to run on an online class. And I frequently do online classes. So if anybody wants to go there, if they want to find out more information about what we've discussed, and how to support their baby. If they go to mybabymassage.net/baby sleep connection, then they can find out all that information that they need.
Lovely. And I'll be sure to put that website address right in the show notes as well. Helen, thank you for spending time with me talking about this. It's something that I remember doing with my firstborn, and then things got very busy, and I don't know that I did it so much with my second and third, but talking about it with you certainly reignites the awareness that I have for the value in it in terms of the connection and the sensory input and the confidence building and in getting to know one's baby through that whole process of giving them a massage. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about baby massage because it's so powerful in so many different ways for parents, dads, and babies. So thank you, Heather, for having me. I really appreciated being here.
It's a pleasure. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.